Hello, everybody. It is DL White, Atlanta-based author of romantic fiction featuring Black men and women, and this is Season 3, Episode 6 of the Bookcast. The Bookcast is my platform for sharing short fiction when I have written short fiction and letting you know how things are going over here at Books by DL White. This is basically in lieu of me actually typing out a blog post because, yes, I am a little bit lazy. And also burnt out. And so this seemed like a fun way to actually keep people up to breast on how things are going, anything new coming up, anything I'm reading, stuff I'm enjoying, places I'm going to be, things I'm going to be doing. This is it. So it is Saturday, February. I almost said September for no real reason. But today is Saturday, February 25th. It is 10:54 a.m. I have my coffee. And I think today's going to be a shorty because I don't have too much to share, but I do have two things I want to talk about. First of all, I didn't record my podcast yesterday because I wasn't ready. And because I used my podcast recording time to talk with Audra Russell, who is Read It Black to Me on Twitter. Also, Between the Reads podcast, I recorded an episode with Audra for Between the Reads. That's going to be on next Tuesday. So mark it down in your little diary, your calendar, if you will. Open up your bullet journal and just make a little entry for Tuesday. That podcast is called Between the Reads. You can reach them at betweenthereads.com. You can hit Between the Reads on Instagram. I think she's on TikTok a little bit, not too much. On Twitter, she's Read It Black to Me, and she's also staying on Code podcast, which is a platform for talking about nonfiction books that are very important to us as a Black nation. That's also a really great podcast. Last week-ish, she had the author of American Sirens, Kevin Hazard. He wrote the book about the first Black paramedics, and it's a great book. The episode is awesome. I encourage you to look that up and look it up on YouTube because I like to see faces. So if a podcast is on YouTube, I'm almost always watching it, like while I'm doing my work or, busy work or whatever. Expense reports call for something interesting to listen to. So I'm going to be on Tuesday on Between the Reads. Make a note of it. It's on YouTube. It's also on all of your favorite podcast apps except for Spotify. She does not distribute to Spotify, so take a listen. We had a really good time talking about Hey Lover, a little bit of writing stuff, and I feel like I snorted at some point during the podcast. If I didn't, I almost did. That is just how much fun I have with my friend Audra. The other thing that I wanted to share today is that I actually have short fiction to share with you. This is something that a few people who have been reading me for a long time might have seen a very long time ago. It was on my old blog and I've saved it all these years and didn't really know what to do with it because it's not contemporary, but it's not historical. It is a it's a rural life piece. It's super short. It's like 2,400 words-ish, not even 2,500 words. It's just kind of something that I think I wrote it as a prompt. It's like a free write kind of thing, but I was kind of digging through some things and like, what can I share? And I haven't really written anything new, but I do have a lot of old stuff that could use some editing that I could share just for the podcast. Not even anything to share, but just something to read and have for this podcast that I created to share short fiction. So I have a little something. I wrote it in 2013. It's simply called The Storm. Again, it's not contemporary, but it's not historical. It is very slice of rural life. And I hope that you enjoy it. So I'm going to take a quick coffee break and I'll be right back. This is called The Storm. Jed and I get up before sunrise to work in the barn before he heads out for the day. Jed milks the cows. I muck the stalls. We both gather fresh eggs, and by the time the sun peeks up over the horizon like soft pink arms stretching out over the cornfields, kissing the leaves of the trees, and drying the dew on the grass, we're on our way back to the house, hauling buckets and baskets. Jed goes around to the back of the house to use the wash tub. I busy myself getting something hot on the table, eggs over easy, fried potatoes and diced onions, a few slices of ham left over from last night's dinner with salted tomatoes on the side. The tinkle of brass clasps on Jed's overalls and the heavy thump of his boots let me know he's dressed and will be heading to the kitchen shortly. Jed usually has a few minutes between dressing and heading out the door to sit with me and eat. I indulge in this time with him watching him gulp strong black coffee and shovel food into his mouth. Gonna be a hot one today, I muse, my hands cupping the wide-mouthed mug. I could already feel the heat seeping through the window panes above the kitchen sink. A triple-digit day, I figure. Jed chews, his eyes following mine to the view of clear blue skies and a light wind rocking the branches on the oak tree in the middle of the yard. Supposed to get a storm later on. That'll be good. Crops need it. Ours and Riley's, I say, nodding my agreement. Jed works for Jacob Riley. Riley's commercial farm is about a mile or so away from the small patch of land we call home. The Riley's farm supplies most of the town with corn and wheat, fresh fruit and vegetables, milk and eggs too. Field work is backbreaking, but it's work. Riding hard over field crews picking food as fast as Mother Nature can grow it isn't what Jed wants to be doing, but he does what he's got to do to keep a roof over our heads and food on our table. Sometimes Riley lets the workers take surplus home. I haven't had to plant a tomato in, I can't remember how long. I hum a soft tune, one familiar to both of us, picking at the remnants of egg and potatoes on my plate, dreading the tick of the clock when the big hand hits the 6 and Jed pushes away from the table, sets his empty plate into the sink, and bends to drop a kiss on my cheek, his breath smelling of coffee. His tone is always light and cheerful. His steps, though, will plod slow and heavy as his boots clomp along the wooden slats Jed laid himself. I push myself up from the table, leaving my plate where it sits. There will be plenty of time for cleaning up after Jed is gone for the day. You don't work too hard now, I tease, as I do every morning, adjusting the straps of his overalls as he pulls them over broad shoulders and snaps them closed. You know Riley don't care none if you get overtired or break something, he'll just replace you. Yes, ma'am, Jed always answers in a rich baritone. You know I do my best to come home to you every day. You just make sure today is the same as any other day, and we'll be fine. After Jed leaves, I start in on my chores. I have a routine, things I do on certain days of the week that keeps me from having to clean all day every day and gives some variety to my schedule. Today is Tuesday, so it's wash day. I gather up the pile of Jed's sweat-stained shirts and overalls with dirt crusted into the cuffs. I pull up the rugs and stir the dust around. This spring and summer has been so dry, it seems like the air is full of dust. At night it settles into the cracks, and the next day I kick it up again. I'm about to give up the fight. I hum and sing through my chores, making good progress on my list. It's such a nice day, I think I'll take an extra long break, pack a lunch in a basket, and steal away to the fields just beyond the house. My sister up in St. Louis sent me some books. Some love story books. I've been saving the latest one for a nice day, so at about 1 o'clock I set out with my lunch and head to my favorite spot on a flat piece of land where the grass is still a little green and soft, and sit with my back up against the trunk of what's probably a 100-year-old tree. I packed a sandwich of leftover ham and cheese and some sliced tomatoes. I spread out my blanket, unpacked my lunch, and opened the latest package from Jane. On the cover is a handsome man, bare chest, smooth, flawless skin the color of thick Karo syrup, eyes shaped like almonds and dark as night. His mustache is thin, and he has a wisp of a beard, not like Jed, who sports a full, thick beard and mustache. His hair seems cut close, but is hidden up under a black, wide-brimmed cowboy hat. My, I say to myself, let's see what Mr. Nighthawk has for me today. After a few pages, I'm already lost in the story of two lovers who did not seem meant to be but couldn't resist the pull of each other. That Ian Vance seemed to have given up on feeling the softness of love ever again and dedicated his life to dangerous work. Maggie Freeman wasn't a shrinking violet or a damsel in distress. Not soft and loving. She could stand on her own 2 feet, but this time she needed help. Ian wasn't there to help, but he didn't seem to want to do what he was supposed to do with her. I loved all the books my sister sent me, but this author right here, this Miss Jenkins, had fast become a favorite. Sometimes I like to switch the characters out and put me and Jed in them. Makes it more real life. Time gets away from me reading that story in the shade of the tree. I'm about halfway through the book, and I could have read more, except I hadn't noticed the sky getting darker. I didn't feel the wind picking up and blowing the grass this way and that, rustling through the leaves on the trees. It isn't until a cool wind snakes down my back and the scent of rain hits my nose that I look up. A terrible pain shoots through my heart. I don't know if this pain is panic or fear or a mix of the two. The sky is dark, clouds black and looming, piling one on top of the other and blowing with the wind, which is strong and growing stronger. In the distance, I see the ugliest thing I've seen in a long while. A few miles away, the sky is jet black and ugly, and coming straight at me, loud and fast as a runaway train. Bad storm's coming, I say aloud. I throw together the remnants of my lunch, the book, and my blanket and head toward the house, barely able to breathe through the gusts of wind already bellowing between the trees. Every time I look up, that ugly patch is even closer than it was a few seconds before. Normal rain ain't no thing for us. We hole up in the house around the fire, listening to the drops hit the tin roof and pitter-patter off the edge into puddles around the house. Once it's over, we go on with our lives. A heavy rain with a mighty force of wind and an evil sky, that means trouble, maybe even a twister. I ain't seen one of them in a long time. I run to the house, a little shack just barely sturdy enough to withstand strong wind, let alone a twister. I dump my basket onto the porch steps and head toward the barn. The cows are agitated, milling around, mooing at me like I know what they're saying. Them dummies don't even know to get back into the barn. I have to shoo them in there with the chickens and close the door behind them, then get to the house and close up all the windows. I wish Jed was home, but he'll likely wait out the storm at Riley's. If there's daylight left when it's over, Jed would lead the team in scouring the crops to get an idea of the damage. The rain has come. Not a drip, drip, drip rain, but a hard, sharp, hurts when it hits your body rain. It's near darkest night, but it can't be later than 2 o'clock. I managed to get every animal into the barn, but I can't get the door closed. The wind is powerful and fierce, blowing the door open at the same time I'm pushing it closed. I use the power of my backside against the worn, painted wood, my feet sinking into the mud. I cringe as the cold guck creeps over my shoes, soaking my feet. The sky seems to bust wide open and exhale over our little house, sending gusts to kick up the dirt and mud and objects we keep around the yard, buckets and baskets, tools and jars. They fly past me, swirling around until they hit something hard and sturdy and burst into pieces. The pieces get picked up, carried on high winds, sending shrapnel into my face. Soaking wet, so cold I'm numb and covered in mud, I manage to close and latch the double-wide doors and rush around to the side of the barn. Jed keeps a long pane of wood that slides between the two handles to keep the door closed and our animals inside. Just as I find and reach for it, I hear a long, loud creak. And the last thing I see is the barn door flying open, coming at me faster than I can run. Now, I remember seeing it coming. I remember trying to shield myself with my arms. I remember screaming, "Lord, help me," loud as I could in case he can't hear my prayers over the howling wind and the driving rain and the breaking glass. I remember the sound of the wood as it splintered on impact. I remember searing pain upside my head and down my right side. I remember the sick pop I felt and heard in my wrist as I hit the ground. I remember wishing again that Jed was home. I don't know how long I laid there in the mud and the wind and the cold, the rain filling every dip in the yard, those puddles spilling over and running like little rivers around my body. I remember not feeling any pain, not feeling cold or wet. I remember dreaming. I dreamed a scene from that book I was reading where that handsome man comes to find me, picks me up and carries me to safety, takes care of the open, bleeding gash in my head, a swollen wrist, probably broken. He removes the muddy, wet clothes and lays me close to the fire so I can warm up. It's a nice dream. Piece by piece, I start to wake up, except I'm not still outside in the yard, and this isn't a dream. Jed is home. I'm in my house, our house. A wood log in the fireplace pops and sizzles, and I'm lying on a cot close to the heat. I'm wearing nothing but my underclothes, but I'm clean and dry. I look around for a minute, feeling the warmth and, more importantly, the pain when I try to move my head. A stuttered breath catches Jed's attention. "You just lay still, Carolyn," he says softly, moving to my side, his big, soft hand stroking my cheek. "Lay right there and don't move. You don't need to be moving around." "I believe I'll rest just this once," I say, smiling up at his face hanging over mine, rivers of worry etched into his forehead. "You gonna be all right? Riley sent us all home when the wind let up some, about scared me to death finding you laying out there in the mud." I nod as best I can, despite the dull throb in my head. Feels like someone is hammering something on my right side. I'm gonna be fine, I answer, then smile and add, my hero come to save me. Jed grimaces, but playfully so. Been reading them books again, I see. I try to laugh, but a stabbing pain shoots through me. I smile through it. Yeah, I've been reading them books. What's it matter to you? He laughs, the sound bouncing around the small room and echoing in my head. You say you always put me in the story. I guess as long as I'm always the hero in them, it don't matter none at all. Jed fusses with the bandage on my head and the sling he's fashioned for my wrist, humming the same soft tune from earlier in the day. With my good hand and my good eye, I catch his attention. My throat closes up a little, and a tear comes to my eye. Maybe Jed doesn't have almond-shaped eyes and long, pretty black lashes and smooth skin the color tone of Cairo, but he's my real-life hero. I came close to leaving him that day, and as hard as life is for us, I believe that either of us living without the other would be doubly hard. I believe that as much as I believe anything. I make it a point to look at my handsome man with small, dark brown eyes and hold his hand, admiring the walnut-colored skin that was once baby soft, but has since been hardened and weathered by the sun he labors under to keep us afloat, to keep us together, to keep us a family. Don't matter how many of them books I read, I whisper. You gon' always be my hero, Jed Clark. Phew, that was a bit much. I just finished recording and I'm not going to tell you what it's going to take to get me to edit that into something that is easily able to be listened to, if that makes any sense, but we're going to take a go at it. So if you don't hear this podcast until Monday, I was at my laptop yelling at myself about this not recording right and not being able to edit it the way that I want to. I'd like to do a little something special with the audio, so we'll see if I get it to work. So that is what I have for you all today. 2 things. One, I'm going to be on Between the Reads on Tuesday with Audra Russell. Take a look, give it a like, comment, share, subscribe to her podcast. She is excellent. She's doing the Lord's work when it comes to Black authors, especially indie published authors. I just love her to death. So give her podcast a listen. Also look for her other podcast, Staying on Code, which is a platform for nonfiction books that are basically talking about our experience here in Black America. I am off to go edit this and hope it comes out nice. I hope you all have a great weekend and a wonderful week. I appreciate all of your thoughts and wishes for good luck. The thing at work turned out just fine. All is well. I may have some opportunities that I'm looking into. So other than that, everything's great over here. We will talk to you all next week. Again, you can always purchase my books at booksbydlwhite.com/books, or you can go straight to my store at payhip.com/booksbydlwhite. You can also find my books in ebook at your favorite ebook retailer, and select titles are available in paperback and audio both at my store and on the retail stores. If you're looking for a print book and you are in the area of like Petersburg, Virginia, please go find Resist Booksellers. You can find my books in print there. You can also hit Bookshop, and you can designate that a portion of your purchase go to support your favorite indie bookstore. If you don't have a favorite indie bookstore, you can set it to benefit Resist Booksellers. You can also do the same at Libro.fm if you're looking for my books in audio. They are available for purchase there at Libro, and you can also designate a portion of your purchase go to your favorite indie bookseller. And again, if you don't have a favorite, now you do. It's Resist Booksellers. You can also go to resistbooksellers.com and pick up my book. One of my other favorite indie authors, Chelsea Lockhart, is there, as well as some of your favorite Black and ally authors. So that's all I have for you all today. I hope you all have a great week, a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk next week.